And since there's nobody from the public here to speak, we'll go right to the director's update.
All right, thank you so much. This is the second month with Google Meet, so my goal is not to accidentally end the meeting when I try to stop sharing my screen. So hopefully that will be successful. Just a few updates for us as we start the school year. The first topic that I had on here was our August teacher development, professional development update. We are embarking on 2 very busy weeks here in the district. The first week is the week of August, let me double check, 18th, where we welcome our new teachers into the district. They have 4 days of essentially informational sessions and meet and greets with a lot of different people throughout the district. They do an introduction to our administration team. They have time with their mentors, so time to meet their mentor, get some questions answered. At the elementary level, they'll be doing a math and literacy training on the new curriculum materials that we have. In the secondary level, they'll be doing some AVID training and some behavioral expectation training. And then everyone gets the opportunity to do our safety training with the police department, Skyward training, as well as an overview of our benefits. Sarah has a special ed team together for the NBCI training, so all of our staff who are special ed get a full day of NBCI training during that first week.
And billing training, following the money, all of the fun things.
Exactly. And then we have the full staff training the week of August 25th. It's a 5-day week. The teachers essentially have 2 work days, and then there are 3 days of professional development and staff meeting time. So every building has their own staff meeting time planned. We do a full staff safety training with the police department. The elementary will continue with literacy training. I'm excited that we'll be able to share some math pacing guides. That was something that came out of our data dig, where we wanted to ensure that our staff was staying paced to the curriculum. And then we'll also be doing some Ames web training, which is the new assessment piece that we're using. We used literacy last year for K3 or for K3, but we'll be using literacy and math K5 throughout the district. So those teachers will have some additional Ames web training as well. At the secondary level, they are working together to work on some AVID training, specifically focusing on the Wicker strategies. And then, as Sarah alluded to, there will be some Compass Care training, which is the organization we use to Medicaid bill and get some reimbursement for our services there. And then she has a boot camp training plan for all special ed staff, just to update on processes as well. So that will be a very busy week. I know you do get an invitation to attend the full staff meeting, and I believe that will be the afternoon of August 26th. But I will let Lynn Skins formally and Jared formally invite you to that as well. Any questions about those first 2 weeks back?
No.
All right. The second piece that I wanted to update you about is some programming changes that we have at the middle school as it relates to our dual language program. As you know, in the past, we've had a kindergarten through 8th grade dual language program. Our students start at Schurz, where they're in a classroom where they're learning both English and Spanish. We have traditionally continued that through the middle school, where we had a dual language teacher who taught social studies and science in Spanish, and also taught some SLA, so Spanish language arts. Unfortunately, that teacher resigned, and we are having a very, very challenging time replacing her. That is an area across the state of Wisconsin. Dual language teachers are very, very, very difficult to find, and we have been very lucky to be staffed at the elementary level as well as we have, and be staffed at the middle school level. We still have the job posted. I check it probably every other day. I did send an email blast out to anyone in the state of Wisconsin who's in weekend who has a dual language license and did not get any interest in the position. So at this point, we're planning for the start of the school year. What we are planning to do, and for 1 year only, is to work with the students who are in the dual language program and offer them Spanish world language instruction. So they will have a teacher where they will be taking a Spanish course. Ashley is working to correlate the Spanish course to where their Spanish skills are. And those will likely be high school level courses that they'll be taking. The science and social studies will be taught by our English, science, and social studies teacher at the middle school level. So they will continue to have their English and science and social studies, and they will continue to have Spanish through a world language course, but it will not be considered a dual language programming like how the state defines it. Our plan is to continue with STAMP testing, and our STAMP testing is what we use to assess their Spanish language skills. And then any students who are English language learners would still continue with their access testing, which helps us assess their English skills. So we'll be able to monitor their progress with this new type of programming. A couple of steps that we still need to take, Ashley, is working through that Spanish curriculum to make sure it's a nice match for the students who are coming in. We'll need to communicate with families about this. And the other thing that we will do is we will still continue to recruit for that dual language position. My hope is that this is a one-year fix and that we'll have been able to recruit someone for the following school year. But at this time, it's kind of our best approach to be able to meet the needs of those kids. They're still continuing with their Spanish skills. They're still continuing their English skills. But at this time, we don't have a dual language teacher with that. So that staffing can be really challenging. And honestly, if we were to come across a great candidate this time, I'd be thrilled, and we would engage with that person and hopefully be able to bring them on for the start of the year. But given that it's August 12th and we don't have anyone yet, we just need to have a backup plan that will support our students' needs. So huge shout out to Jason and Ashley, because I know that they have been working hard to find a person and also to be creative in problem solving that as well. And we were able to recently bring on a multilingual language teacher who also has that Spanish world language license. And so we were able to staff that from within. Any questions about that change?
Joy?
Jenny, when you say you offer the Spanish world language instruction, does that mean the student has the option to take it, or is that something that we would require?
That's a really good question. My assumption is that folks will want to engage in that. If there was a family that said, nope, at this time, we don't want to continue, we've never forced someone to continue in our dual language program. So we would not require them to take that. But that's a really good question and something I actually hadn't thought about.
Thank you.
Jenny, about how many kids does this involve?
That's a really good question. I'm going to toss that one to Ashley.
I would say a little over 60 students.
Yeah, something
At
like
IMS?
high teens per grade level, up to 20 per grade level, yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
Okay,
There's another question here.
David?
They have to have a license, dual language license, right?
Yes.
I'm saying this because of my work with DPI, I just want to, can you hire someone who's working on one?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right.
And we actually are really excited because I will kind of Ashley for just a second. When she became licensed as dual language teacher, she went through Edgewood, and it was a very rigorous course. We are now able to work with CISA. CISA 2 offers something called the CLASS program, where we're able to support the dual language teacher in the classroom while they're working on their licensing pieces. And they work through online modules, and it is also very rigorous and prepares the student well. But at this point, there are more options than there used to be able to do that. But we certainly can ask for a provisional license, I believe it's called.
Yes.
Margaret would correct me and tell me exactly what it's called.
You get 1 year.
Yep. And then they just have to show that they're making progress towards that. And that's something, license with stipulations, there it is. And so we would be happy to engage with someone who would like to do that as well. But we haven't found that person yet either. So good question.
Okay,
All right. And then I had a third topic here, the curriculum course guide update. I know this is something that is of interest to this committee and is something that we're working through with our teachers as well. It did pass the second read, I believe, in the July board meeting. And so we are moving forward with that process. I'm working with Melissa a little bit on format and where we're going to place these on the website. I'd like it to look clean, and I'd like it to match, and I'd like it to be on a very obvious spot on our website. I do anticipate this is going to be at least a full year-long process. We've started meeting with departments to share what this is going to look like. I'll give a shout out to Mr. Bull. Last week, he had the opportunity to meet with several different departments to introduce the idea to them. I am excited because we have a tech development that I think is really going to help support the process, but I'm going to save that because I know that the tech team is coming to present next month. But it's something that I believe will support our teachers in completing these without as much work as I maybe initially anticipated. I do have one concern, which is just the length of the process. I know through the policy, we have an additional committee created, like a curriculum committee, where the chair of Ed Services, in this case Dan, would be on that committee as well, where we would bring all of these course guides through. We will have a lot of course guides to bring through because we're kind of starting from scratch. And I'm playing with ideas where perhaps the curriculum materials that we've adopted in the last 24, 36 months, we might have a more expedited process with those just to be able to ensure that we are able to get through in a timely fashion. But more to come on that, and I'll work with Dan on that piece and as well with Dr. Burke with that. But I am hopeful that our new tech tool will help our teachers streamline the process a little bit and be able to get those in front of the board in a quicker way. But I did want to just give you a short update on that as well.
Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, does this mean that the curriculum will be on the website as well to, for parents to peruse?
Yep, we're looking at least a year before it's like all there and up and ready and has gone through the process, but
Okay.
that is the long-term goal. And I'd be happy to sit with you at some point, because I know that's been a process that we've worked through kind of with this committee since January about what that might look like. And I can share you some examples of what other districts have done and what we're planning on doing too. I'm pretty excited about it because I think that's a good next step. And I think my initial hesitation because of the workload for the teachers has been lightened a little bit with our tech team. So I'm happy to report that as well.
Well, that's great, thank you.
Okay. We have a couple of presentations, B and C, and we're gonna go through those now, but after that, Sam has to leave. So Sam,
I think I'll be good until the end of the meeting. I have to leave at 9:30, but
Okay.
I should be good to be here.
so we
through.
can keep it in this order.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. And I do want to say that I do have Renee Aldana joining us at 8:30 for that last discussion point, if there's any questions that I might not be able to answer. So just, we can be aware of that, so.
All right, well, let's move on to the student rounding report.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I always want to start with gratitude, so thank you for your support of our really building a culture that we talk about as being student-driven and data-informed. And one component of that work last year was really thinking of ways how to elevate student voice. And that's where this idea of student rounding was created. Last year, Chris Malloy and I worked with stakeholders at every building, including parents and students, to execute a student rounding model. And we talked to about 270 students total. We talked to students at grades 3, 6, and 10 about their insights around reading. We talked to students at grades 4, 7, and 11 about their insights around math. And then we talked to students at grades 5, 8, and 12, kind of reflecting on their experiences at that grade band, elementary, middle school, and thinking about next steps for them. It was our first attempt at student rounding, and so we learned a lot, and today we want to share some of those learnings with you. We always frame our conversations in the why, what, and how. So that's our document here. I don't want to read things to you, but when I think about grounding ourselves in our why is really four things. One is to elevate the voice of students. We wanted to gain insights from our students about math literacy and their preparation for next steps. We also wanted to build relationships with students. And finally, really using that data as part of a complete data set, really to move forward continuous improvement. Chris is going to talk us through some of our what's and how's and some of the data, and then I'll close it out for us.
So when I think about the what, we were just really letting the students try to tell their story instead of telling it for them. That's something we had read about and really kind of resonated with both Jason and I, is to let them tell us how they feel about their math, their reading, and their future plans. So we went about picking the students, and we tried to make sure we were covering the students proportionally to the students in our buildings. So making sure we had the correct percentage of students with disabilities. We had English learners. So some kids that, we had to work a little to communicate with, but we had supports in the buildings for that as needed. Students that were economically disadvantaged, so that we could try to make sure that we were hearing all voices and not just the students that were taking certain classes. So that was one of the things we worked towards doing when we were setting it up. Once we had those students selected, we sent the list to the building principals, leaders, and they looked at the list and let us know if there was any concerns, like this student never comes to school, let's pick a new one, because we really wanted to get 30 students in each grade level. So if they knew we were gonna have a hard time with one, or maybe a student that was very set in the routine and we were gonna kind of wreck their day by bringing them in there, then maybe we'd have to look at doing that conversation differently and how we could go about it to make sure it worked for both us and the students. Once they had gone through those, Jason had a letter sent home to the parents to let them know what we were doing and shared the questions we were asking, because we had set questions. We asked all the kids to keep the conversations consistent, and then the parents were informed of what we were doing and what we were asking. And then the buildings were really great about working on like a system to pull the students in. It was kind of like when you set aside like 2-3 full days in your schedule, like you dread the doing it, but then you start doing it and you love every moment of it. And that's really what it was for both Jason and I. I feel like I can talk, but boy, Jason can really talk. So I was like, okay, we gotta let them go back to class eventually. So I don't know, I found a lot of joy in the process. I think that there was some things that didn't surprise me, but there were moments where I was like, well, I'm glad we had this conversation, because we've heard from 10 different kids the exact same thing that I wouldn't have expected to hear. So I think it was a really worthwhile process, and I would give up those days again and again just to let the kids tell us about things. The next part, that was kind of the what and the how. We had like the rounding nuggets, and that's kind of how we shared back with the buildings. Like, what were the things we were hearing over and over again? Like, if we heard it one time, it was different, but if we heard the same thing 5-10 times, we wanted to make sure the buildings knew about it, the good and the bad. And that is part of the document we shared back out with you guys. A couple of them for me that resonated is I found it really cool when we were in the elementary school, and one of our questions is, do you think math is fun? Like, yes came out, I think 29 out of 30 times, which was very exciting to me. Yeah, it was. A little bit less math is fun when they were seniors or high school level. But the joy of learning for the elementary, because I come from teaching high school level, like going to those little kids was just kind of a fun opportunity for me. They made me a little uncomfortable, but I pushed through. And then another thing that I really loved hearing, and this was pretty consistent, like it was elementary and middle school especially, is it okay to get an answer wrong? And they were like, yeah, because then you learn. And I know that, right? Like as a teacher, you learn so much more when you get something wrong than if you already know the answer. But for them to recognize that was very cool to me to hear. One of the things we did hear a lot from 5th graders, 8th graders, and even the 12th grade was the nervousness about the next step. I'm leaving the elementary and now I have to go and have to see different teachers, but feeling like a lot of them felt like they were ready for that because their teachers were practicing like 3 minutes to get ready from English to math and like practicing those transitions. Middle school to high school, I feel like we felt a little more nervousness, just a whole new building, and as kids get older, there's bigger worries in life. But they really felt like the freshman experience that they had, I think it was called the freshman, they came to the high school, whatever the name of the thing was. Those kids that had gone to that felt very prepared. Kids that had not were a little bit more nervous because they hadn't been in the building. So we talked about like making sure, we talked to Jason about making sure that we get more kids doing that if possible, and how we could, make sure that that's an opportunity that all kids can have. I'm gonna turn it over to Jason to share a few of his nuggets as well.
Yeah, thank you. From the high school end, I think some things that really stood out for me is that there's a huge divide that we saw in reading at the high school level that we didn't see at the elementary and middle. And what I mean by that is we found students that were passionate about reading and read all the time, all genres. And then we had the other side were students that kind of had to be forced to read, right? There was nothing in the middle. It was just passionate about reading or really just did it because they had to. So that was one thing that stood out for me. From a math perspective, what I found interesting is, again, there was this divide between students that really liked and appreciated collaboration and working as part of a team. And then there was this other group of students that just wanted to be lectured to. And so that was just an interesting divide there. And then from a ready for next standpoint, students were unanimously grateful for the work of all stakeholders at the high school, their teachers, their counselors, their administrators, of really feeling prepared for whatever next was for them, whether it was the military, whether it was college or the workforce. They felt ready for that next step, and they were grateful for that. From a just overall lens, it was a great reminder that we really do have great students, right? The young people in our district are great humans, great to talk to. They dealt with my terrible dad jokes. They even laughed at some of them. And so just good humans, right? Just pleasant to talk to. The students were also, in general, elementary, middle, and high school, very appreciative of the work of the staff and understood the hard work that goes into teaching and learning. When we think about next steps, this data, the nuggets there, the summary, the patterns in the data have been shared with all building leaders. Building leaders have taken a look at that data and used it as part of their data dig in the summer that we asked buildings to do. Chris and I have and will continue just to review and revise the system. It was our first time, so we want to make it as smooth as possible for all involved. And then this year, we're going to execute a similar plan, right? And get a second year of data. And so that's our next step. Any questions about student routing?
Well, thank you for doing this. This is important, and I know the board, I can speak for the board, that the board really appreciates getting that perspective from the students. I'm just wondering about why the disparity between those two groups. Is this one group that just wants to get out of high school and get to their job versus, the kids who are going to go on to college, or?
As far as the reading?
Well, the interest in reading and.
I don't think we saw connections between like passion about reading and going to college, or passionate about reading going to the military.
Okay.
It was just interesting, and I don't know the root cause, but it was obvious the divide was there at the high school level for sure.
Julie?
Thank you for the report. Could you could walk us through how you conducted these chats,
Sure.
fireside chats?
Sure. So as Chris mentioned, we set the list prior to buildings, and so they helped us with the system of calling. I think every 12 minutes they had a student come to us, for example. And so we had all the questions that we had, we put into a Google form. And so we were a partnership because one asked the questions and talked, and the other was the recorder. And so we just took turns doing that and record our answers and then look for patterns.
Since these were individual conversations with
Yes, ma'am.
30 students. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Linda?
So for moving forward, then you're gonna take, I shouldn't say it, are you going to be taking some kids from that first group or a whole bunch of 270 new people?
Yeah, Chris does a phenomenal job of randomizing that, so I'm guessing there'll be some overlap,
Okay.
but not necessarily.
And then I just these questions and things and the answers, the responses that you put are just wonderful. In the elementary, the grade 5, when number 4, the students have ideas for supporting their transitions to middle school, can those be extrapolated and then implemented moving forward, or how would that happen to give them a voice?
Absolutely, thank you. What we did was share some of those further insights with, at the time, the middle school principal, Mr. Whitaker, and the team there about some ideas straight from the mouths of our students about transitioning. We also shared those ideas with our elementary principals. So beyond that summary,
Yeah.
we also followed up with some specific things that we heard as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, great.
So the high school math, grade 11, number 2 says that students care about what their classmates think about them, and their math students, this care impacts their willingness to share answers and ask questions. Can you elaborate on what that looks like? Because that could be taken 2 different ways.
Sure. Students talked about the fact that if they were confident in their answers or response, from a question from the teacher,
Right.
they were much more willing to share that answer without even being called on. And if they were less confident, in part because they were concerned about their classmates' perspectives of their math knowledge, they were just less willing to offer up an answer.
Okay. So is that a cultural thing that perhaps maybe raises some concern that we have to try to make sure that kids feel comfortable being able to share?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the other part about students' opinions and collaborative work versus lecture format, you said it varies widely. I mean, you have a large amount of kids on one side of this issue and a large amount of kids on the other side of this issue, or?
Yeah, I would hesitant to guess, but it felt like a 50-50 split, right? Like between
Okay.
students that really talked about their appreciation for sitting and getting, for lack of a better phrase, right? And being lectured, taking notes, being engaged in that way, versus students that really enjoy being part of a collaborative group, less lecture, less taking notes, and working as part of a group to figure out those answers or solutions.
So as folks that like to look at data,
Yeah.
you're probably kind of curious about how each of those groups responded based on how well they performed in the class.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know that too.
Also, one thing that's, for me, was interesting, to see the progression or changed opinions over time, right?
Sure.
Elementary students were, I don't think they cared if they had their answer right. They just wanted to share, right? Like, over time, our high school students are much more aware of their surroundings and the impact of peer perspectives showed up.
Sure, for sure.
Okay, Jelaine?
So going back to how you did this,
Yes.
I'm assuming you had prepared questions. And was it also somewhat free-flowing, that you responded, as they responded, you asked follow-up questions that were kind of spontaneous, or?
More of like explain more, like if they said something that we found concerning, Jason's favorite is, can you tell me more about that? Like math is scary, or, reading is scary, and they said, yes, can you tell me why? So we just made them explain more. I don't know that new questions came, more of, can you explain why you said that, was the follow-up, because we were trying to record it all, so we were trying to be, there was a lot of like, yes, no, like filling it in. But then occasionally we would want them to explain if something was concerning to us in the way they responded.
I don't know about everybody else, but I'd be fascinated to see what questions you ask. But also, so what is the expectation of how the building administration will use this information?
I think the main way we have asked or expected building leaders to use that is during the summer, we really have created a process of data digging, and that leads to building goals being crafted. And so when we think about data digging, we really want our building leaders and their leadership teams to take a comprehensive look at data, whether it's academic data, whether it's behavioral data, attendance data, student rounding data, student and parent engagement survey data. So we really have an expectation to really dig into all data sets that we have. We are data rich for sure, and that being the foundation for conversations about school goals for the forthcoming year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. So, 11th grade math, students, number 4, students do not appreciate the use of AP videos to flip the classroom. Can you build out what that means?
There were some, not all, AP courses where Chris will probably speak more eloquently than I, but there are videos available from AP to support the learning. And some of our instructors use that in a flip model. And a flip model is where the expectation is for students to take a look at those videos at home. That's kind of the homework. And then be ready to engage in conversation and questions about the learning in the classroom. And some of those students said that they didn't appreciate that model.
To kind of go on that, I found that a little surprising.
Yes.
Because flipped classroom can be really helpful at times. But I'm not sure why they said that. Are you have any idea?
I don't remember exactly why. That would have been one of the times that I said, can you tell me more?
So, yeah, that was interesting to me, that one thing too. Another point I'd like to ask, something I'd like to ask. When you do this again, will it ever be a time when they answer anonymously?
No, just because we are selecting those students and we're having those face-to-face conversations. The student engagement surveys are anonymous, but the student rounding would not be.
I have one last question.
Please.
Okay, number 4 of the same section, students' opinions around collaborative work versus lecture format varies widely. So definition, does collaborative work mean student-led and lecture format mean teacher-led?
Yes.
Okay, and how much of this do we do of each one?
I think it varies by teacher and it's mixed for sure.
Okay.
And that collaborative setting is certainly with the teacher doing, I believe, some direct instruction for a very short time, but then allowing students to work collaboratively to think about possible solutions, share their thinking, and then as a large group, share their processes and answers versus, some call sage on the stage, right? Like teacher standing in front, lecturing, students taking notes and engaging in the learning in that way. So very different models, but and a wide variety of how that's implemented across classrooms.
Okay, so in the category, in which category would you place the teacher asking and answering questions in that format?
I think it's probably in both,
Okay.
in different ways. The lecturing is probably more traditional where you're asking one student to give their answer or their opinion or their thinking versus collaborative. What we see is teachers connecting with groups individually and having that conversation and bringing the whole group back together for that discussion. So really the answer is both in both models.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question for my fellow board members. If we were to go to more of a classical approach, would it be sage on a stage versus collaborative?
Well, I think that,
Understanding?
I think that you'd have to get a little bit of a clearer definition, like Jason just talked about. Having a classical approach, a lecture style, doesn't necessarily mean that you're not having back and forth. It means that you're not organizing the students into groups or modules, tables with 4 to 6 students facing each other and discussing. And then lecture model is just, students
Sure.
are all facing the teacher. You're still having that discussion. I mean, I've been in plenty of classes that were lecture model, and there was I would actually argue there was more discussion on point in those models than there was in a collaborative setting. And that kind of leads into a question that I had, which is pretty broad. And again, I throw these out there a lot of times. I'm not expecting the answer right away, depending on how broad my question is. But do we have any idea why the students preferred a lecture versus a collaboration style? Because I think that you can prefer one or the other for very good reasons, but I think that you could also prefer a collaboration style because you can goof off with your friends, or you can prefer a lecture style because you can kind of coast through the class and not engage as much. So I'm curious as to like the reasons that students said that they preferred one or the other, because that seems more valuable to me from my perspective.
Sure, I think the answers to whys for those students really varied by the student, right?
Mhm.
I think of things that we heard around their confidence level, right? And confidence with sharing in a large group and confidence sharing in a small group. I think about just their connectivity or connectedness to the content, I think impacts that. Those are two things that rise to the top for me.
I think it was whichever they felt more safe in, and that's really when you get to the high school level, a big thing for kids, right? I feel safer sharing in my group of 4, or I don't feel safe in that group of 4 because they're not my friends and I don't, you know what I mean? So it really depended on the kid who was in the room with them and their comfort level. You know, some people are comfortable talking all the time, anywhere, any place. Other kids need a safe place for it, and that depended for the kid what it would be, sometimes depending on the teacher and then the room they were in and who was in there with them. So it was a very, very, very different opinions, but I do feel like it was what they felt safest with.
Joanne?
So, a couple things. First of all, was any of this teacher specific on questions or just general on the subjects?
Just general on the subjects.
Okay. And so the students weren't responding necessarily to a particular teacher?
There was one question where I asked them, anyone that really had helped them feel ready for their next steps in life, and a lot of times then they mentioned teachers for that one, like who's made you feel ready for middle school or high school? That was the only one where we got teacher names or teacher-specific information.
So to kind of address your question from my perspective, Dan, I'm of the school that a great teacher is going to use a combination of both collaborative and lecture style. And we're talking about reaching all of the learning modalities. We're talking about, you know, using everything that we have in our toolkit as teachers to make sure we're communicating with. I think that a really good to great teacher can effectively use the Sage on the Stage model, but can also effectively use and monitor a collaborative setting. I think the collaborative setting is sometimes a hard model to really monitor well and to assess well. I think we've all been in those models because that's really the committee model, right? And I don't know, I remember being in school and in college in particular thinking, how do I motivate the other people in this collaborative effort to get off their duffs and get something done? And so that 1 or 2 people were carrying the whole load. In the classical model, I think what you have is your content and your curriculum choices may dictate more about which model of teaching, collaborative or a lecture style that you use. But I totally agree with Chris. I think a lot of that has to do with the security of a student. Number one, with learning style. An auditory learner is gonna love lecture, let's be honest. They love that. And then it's like, they're like sponges, you know? And then there are others who feed off that, that interaction. So I think the key is number one, the teacher. And number 2, look, I'm of the school that a great teacher can take any curriculum and make it fabulous. But we have to keep moving people in that direction and affording them the opportunity to gain the skills to be, so they can handle that. So I appreciate the input from students. I'm going to be very candid here. As long as the information from the students third grade and fifth grade and eighth grade aren't totally determinative on approaches, content, on these big questions, because a third grader, and I hear you use the word feel, I know you're trying to get to an emotional reaction, maybe more than an intellectual or reasoned response at these lower levels in particular. So I think the input's good, I just think we have to be careful how we use the input to make decisions.
Very good. Thank David, did you?
Yeah, this is a very interesting topic because I taught methods classes and I still teach methods class. And these things you're talking about are in there. And I would take a poll every semester, different ways of teaching and seeing which ones they liked in the class. Usually at that level, the college level, lecture came in last. And that is attributed mainly to the age, I think, and to them working through and being at that age. A lot of them didn't like to sit and listen to somebody talk to them necessarily when they could be learning, researching, or doing whatever. Or they got lost it has to do with sometimes their own language skills, where maybe they came in with a second language and lecture doesn't really do it for them sometimes. But I also came to realize that to make cooperative learning work, the teacher really has to be organized on how they set it up. It's not just go do this. It's okay, here's the structure of how we're going to do it. And if that structure usually leads them to be having parts, each person in that group has a part to play. And when they give feedback back, each person has a part to play. And you also grade them accordingly, not as a group, but individuals. There's a lot of research out there right now that says that cooperative learning does cause students to remember things longer. There's more longevity in what they've learned. And I've been in classrooms when I observed where people were using that very successfully, but it was very well organized. And the students learned from other students, and the students that were behind actually learned better from some other student than they did the teacher. That happens quite a bit. That was a math class I'm thinking of. And so I'm saying what Elaine is saying as well. Both of those things are really important. I also found in my asking about lecture is that the really, really good students like lecture. When I say really, really good students, the students like to sit and take notes and don't get out of my way. They want to listen, they want to write it down, they want to read, and they want to do it, and they want to get good grades. And they want to pull down by somebody else. So I thought that was interesting too. Just my take on it.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Craig?
No.
Oh, all right. Well, great presentation, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now we're gonna move to letter C, WSD promotion efforts. Melissa?
So Jenny asked me to attend the meeting today to talk a little bit about our social media and how we share stories and promote programs within the school district. I'm going to advance to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so we are fortunate to have a very robust social media page for the school district. I've also created a social media page, both Instagram and Facebook for Watertown High School as well. So what are some of the things that we spotlight? This is not a list in any order of importance, nor is it complete, but we like to highlight academic achievements. These could be, students who are merit scholars, AP scores, scholarship night, all grades when exciting things are happening with student achievement. We highlight our programs. So oftentimes, there's so many wonderful things to promote with our CTE program, with our ag program and FFA, with our music program, our art program, unique projects. So there will be times when students are, excelling in art or another category, and they're being recognized regionally or at a state level. We like to shine a spotlight on that. Extraordinary talents with students and staff. Special staff recognition days, of which there are a lot. An amazing amount of staff recognition days. And we like to do something special with that on social media, and it does make the staff members happy in whatever department that they're being highlighted, and it's always nice to see the comments of support for those people too. School announcements. So we use our social media in collaboration with our Thrill Share and Skyward messaging if we have to push out school closings, any emergency type notifications. We like to highlight our staff achievements. Hopefully you saw an article that I provided to the Daily Times regarding Emily Lessner speaking at a conference in July. And then you'll be seeing something special about Sarah Tarpey regarding the CTE program very shortly. We always make sure that our Board of Education meeting notices are highlighted on Mondays every week. I like to pop into classrooms and take just for fun photos and stop by activities and see different things happening, just to share great things happening with our kids. We promote upcoming events. And then on the district pages, I always try to highlight regional or state-bound sports teams or athletes. I would have a very difficult time trying to give fair coverage to every single sports team. So that's why on the district page, I limit it to regional and state, but Watertown Athletics manages a page and they are able to highlight a lot more. So if you move ahead. So something new we started doing last school year are our celebrations. And this spun out of our strategic planning efforts. Staff, administrators, different people in the buildings have access to a Google Doc where they can share celebrations. So it could be, something as simple as, a project that was successfully completed that we can promote. Or my favorite just recently was Webster Elementary School Principal Brad Clark shared that he just celebrated a 20, 30, 50 anniversary. So 20 years he completed as principal, 30 years working in the school district, and then it was his 50th anniversary of his graduation from kindergarten at Webster last school year. So it's that type of stuff we like to highlight. So we took a little break during the summer, but I hope to have 2 of these on social media every week, and then every 2 weeks we share them with staff so they are aware about all the great things happening as well. Advance. So we have a number of communication channels that we can use to promote the school district. On our website, we have both our news section and our live feed. So typically anything I'm putting on social media, I'm also adding it to the live feed. And that's always on the district page, and then I can tag the different school buildings where it applies. We have our direct text and email alerts to families. I started a new district-wide newsletter called the District Download that I publish 3 times a year. So there'll be a fall edition coming out shortly after school starts. Each individual school building has its own newsletter. So typically, while they source a lot of stories and news within their building, if I have something that's district-wide that's applicable to their school, I will share that with the building admin assistants as well. We're always pushing information out to the Watertown Daily Times. Of course, we have our Facebook, Instagram page, and high school Facebook page, and then our school district Facebook and Instagram pages. And I just included some pictures of some recent publicity. Hope you'll advance. Okay, so talking about our school district Facebook page, obviously this is our biggest reach. So our page has, there's followers and likes on business pages. They're a little different. So our followers, we have 7,142 followers today and about 6,100 likes. And those are just different levels of engagement. So a follower on your page is going to constantly be seeing the information that you produce. They're people who typically are commenting and liking different things you post on your page. They're more engaged. And then people who like a Facebook page, are out there, but they may not be as engaged. And sometimes with business pages, they can be a little confusing. Sometimes you only have an option to be, to click follow or like. I have no control over that. But just as an example, in July of 2025, our school district Facebook page had about 673 views. Great. Our reach, so there's views and then reach is where there's some engagement happening, was 37,184. And then content interactions, 2,772. Compare that though to May 15th through June 15th, when there's a lot of end of school year activities happening. We promote scholarship night, we're promoting all the retirements that we promote. We highlight each staff retirement individually. There's hundreds and hundreds of likes and comments, and that's so nice. But what was really fun, which is encouraging me to do more video this next year, is Brad Clark filmed a helicopter landing in Webster to whisk away 3 retirees. There was a connection here. The helicopter company was owned by one of the retirees. And that garnered 37,000 views on our Facebook page. Basically about 1,500 likes, 182 comments and 53 shares. So that was the biggest thing we've had in a long time. And it, you know, the video wasn't even that great. It was just so popular. It was kind of shaking the camera on the camera, you know, the helicopters coming down, but I'm so glad he shared that with me. So you can kind of see right here some of those highlighted posts from that particular end of the year time, and just, you know, how many people do see what we're doing. If you want to advance. So another avenue for communication that we do have available to us is direct mail. We typically send out a postcard for 4K registration. We had sent out a postcard and a foldable mailer during the referendum. This is a big project and it's a big undertaking. It has some costs associated with it, but on average, to reach every household within our district, so that's covering Jefferson and Dodge counties, it's about 14,500 units of mail. That gives you an idea of how much we have to produce. So typically there's a cost for printing, and of course postage is very expensive. So go advance, please. So something new we just tried, it was an opportunity that came to us at an extremely reasonable price, is digital billboard advertising. So we had this ad up on 2 billboards, one on Highway 26 between Jefferson and Johnson Creek. It's a digital billboard, 2-sided. Then also on Interstate 94 by County Highway F, also 2-sided. So we put together a now enrolling new students welcome ad. Whether or not it landed us any new enrollments, I do not know. But I thought it was just a fun opportunity for some advertising, and like I said, we could not pass this up at the cost it was offered to us for. Advance again, please. So how do we source our stories? I always keep an eye on the events calendar. I try to be present at special events across all buildings whenever I can. Listen to discussions at cabinet meetings. Oftentimes I'll learn things, you know, happening there that I'll think I need to follow up on. Visiting the school buildings, news from school board meetings, and the best way is just word of mouth. So much of what I go out and I cover and I take pictures of is just because someone is letting me know that something fun or unique is happening at a building or at a location during the day or evening. And I have my camera, and as many people in the buildings as possible, they see a lot of me, and I run around a lot for the school district. So if any of you are aware of something or an achievement or something happening that you would like highlighted, you just have to let me know. I don't know everything. That's why I have to rely on people to help provide that information to me. Answer any questions?
Nice job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Did I interpret it correct, that picture with Craig on there had 202 likes? Is that correct? How many relatives do you have, Craig?
No, those were comments.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yes, yes. And
The,
Go ahead.
the reason I wanted to broach this subject is I wanted to make WUSD attractive to prospective teachers and the parents of students who would be coming here. And I think that especially that billboard is genius. I think that's going to work, but I'd like to hear what other people think about how we can promote WUSD. Okay, let me give you an example of what, I was at Sherwin-Williams, and Grandma stopped me. She was I think she was a paraprofessional at the middle school. And she said that her grandson was so good in math that while he was in middle school, 8th grade, he was taking high school courses, which got him to be a senior with nothing to take. And he went to Maranatha and took Calculus 3. And I thought, we gotta publicize that, because some parent who has a child who's really a math prodigy would have an opportunity a block away from our high school. And David, I don't know if there are more courses like that. I mean, I thought, what if we brought back Latin?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you know.
That's classical education right there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
part of classical education. Yeah, what you're talking about is exactly what we're doing at Maranatha, what they have been doing, particularly online and or in person even, is offering courses to juniors and seniors in high school. And some of these courses are dual credit, obviously. Dual credit thing is kind of big right now. So Yeah, I think, I can't answer for the people in the office doing this, but I would say that, yes, they would be interested in having students come. The students are already doing that. I had a high school student in my methods class this past semester online, a high school student. So,
Yeah, and that would be something, if we could get that out there, I think would be attractive.
The advantage of being able to attend in person is a big deal too.
Yes,
What you're talking about, it being only a few blocks away is big.
yes.
I generally like the, did you know, segments. It'd be kind of interesting if we had like a running, like, statistic, like, call out or highlight that just indicates some of our top indicating, areas of success. And just, that's always prominently displayed regularly, so people kind of see where we're at with some of these areas. Another question I would have would be like, for instance, I think I'm going back to slide 2 here. What area, let's just say there was let's say a policy update, what particular area that you would spotlight would that fall under?
I think Melissa's open to suggestions about how we might update or change things. I know that she has focused her social media presence on all the positive things that are happening, but if you guys have suggestions or other things that we might want to add to that social media piece, I truly think many policy update pieces will go to families through like the handbook changes, or with our staff, just through like staff meeting pieces. I don't know that we've had a conversation yet about how we would broadcast that to the greater public. And so I know we're certainly open to suggestions about how we might be able to do that.
Right, and when I think about communication, that's one area where I feel like communication is pretty important, that everybody's on the same page, that they're aware. So that, and there are other examples of that, you know, highlighted throughout the day, throughout the school year, like if there's a scheduling conflict with an athletic event or something like that, you know, those types of things need to be out there.
I totally appreciate your point, and I think it's important for us to make sure that we target that in the right way too. I know one thing that Melissa didn't mention that I know she's been working really hard on is the rooms implementation, so that we're able to directly communicate from teachers to families about really specific pieces. And I think that's a really great example of that. Melissa didn't even mention the rooms piece that has been a huge part of what she's been doing in the district in the last year or so.
Right, and the last part I would say that is a concern, and again, I'd like the group to think about how we get more engagement with individuals to receive more feedback. And I don't know that, I mean, if we communicate out, we don't always hear that feedback. We do offer a lot of surveys, but for some reason, you know, the emails don't always come. You know, and it's nice to hear back from constituents that you know, are either positive or constructive on what we can improve upon. I don't know how we can get there. Because communication is really the ways.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I think a lot of people are moving into this district from different states, from different communities and things. I think something, and I don't know if you check with the Realtors Association or who exactly you would find out who are the new kids on the block here, but that we would have a welcome piece with given to them for them to highly consider the school system and the reasons why. And then, you know, the personal testimonies always go greatest, of course, on that, but just something for all the new people moving in or considering building and things.
Yeah, to that one particular point
Yes.
too, I And I feel like this relates to communication specifically, directly. It's diversifying our communication portfolio. In one of those ways that I've heard has been done in another neighboring district, they have a realtor day where they come and they tour the high school and they get more familiarity within the high school. And then they share that with other people that want to move into our community. Watertown is an excellent place to get an education, you know, and these are the programs, our CTE programming, and some of the areas that are a huge highlight within our school district. You're absolutely right.
Craig, it's an annual realtor breakfast that is held, very, very popular, and it has been a long-standing tradition that they bring in all area realtors, and it's not just area realtors in that community, it's area realtors regionally. It's huge.
I know, it's huge.
Great.
Okay, Joanne.
Well, maybe this is the time to mention that I attended, Dr. Burke encouraged us as board members to go to the, I want to say, Wisconsin Economic Development, Community Growth Strategies 101, whatever they called it. The second one, apparently there were two. I went to the second one, and excellent presenter from the WEDA. And what you're talking about, Craig, and what Linda was talking about was part of that. They on Main Street program, the chamber, the various, the RDA and some of these really want to work with the school district. They want us to figure out how we can find all these wonderful things to promote and how we interact with them for that promotion. It wasn't the kind of presentation where you put those ideas out on the table. This was a sage on the stage moment. But it was certainly good for thinking about what we as a school district can do to interact, and maybe we already do. I was the only school board member there, but there was Main Street coordinator Stephanie was there. RDA people were there, Ron Council, for instance, and a couple of council members and some people like that have some significant positions within that structure in the community. So everybody seemed to be cooperative and understanding, because it was all about how do we present Watertown in the bigger picture as a desirable place, because we'll never grow as a school district if the community doesn't embrace the goodness that we have and help promote that and get better at who we are and what we do. So it was a very, very interesting meeting.
To Jelane's point, when we built that new high school and the outdoor pool, we had professionals who worked in Milwaukee and Madison coming here because we had things that nobody else had. So, yeah, we're gonna get.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong here, Jason and Chris. So student rounding was a new concept to me. So what do you do today? You Google it, right? We're the only district that came up with that. I didn't see that term. It sounds to me like maybe you coined the term.
The concept of rounding is rooted in the medical field. And so we've done staff rounding for a number of years, but we turn it to students.
Well, if this proves to be something that is truly helpful and beneficial in, the scheme of producing lifelong learners, then, see, that's another thing that is noteworthy. And I only found our district referred to under that topic. So just kind of an anecdotal thing.
Yeah, that's a good selling point, because I was pleasantly surprised by the responses to this, more mature than I expected in some cases. So you can use that. What Linda brought up, is exactly what I was thinking too. Dan had asked us to think about these things, and I was wondering what institutions out there can we send this material to, that nice PowerPoint, before people actually get here to bring them here. Because just like Jillian said, if you want to grow the school population, you're going to have to grow the Watertown population. You're not necessarily going to get them back from where they went if they went to another school necessarily right now. We need to get more people in Watertown, period. And another thing, of course, is the housing market, that kind of thing, but that's another issue. But what both of you have said is, I think, right on point. If we can get these out to, like that realtors thing, I was trying to think, what are those people that we should get this to? Who are they? And that's a good suggestion.
Okay, we already have an option for that, and it reminds me to check and see what we have that we're handing out for the school district. The Chamber of Commerce provides welcome bags.
Yes.
So all
and
realtors have a postcard that they can give to new people who moved into the city, and they can go redeem them at the chamber. So I haven't thought about that in a while. I used to work in that building. So I will double check to see what's in there for the school district, and if there isn't anything, I'll make sure there is something.
And how do we get the message to people outside of Watertown that may think of moving somewhere? No, let's move to Watertown. Not after they get here, but before they get here.
One thing I haven't experimented with that I want to start is doing some paid placement ads on social media in other communities.
Good idea.
And we can create those. Typically, I never turn off comments because we're subject to open records in our Facebook posts. And I either, feel like we have them on or we have them off. It's gotta be one or the other. But with paid ads that you're placing in other communities, you can place those with comments turned off, just so it's advertisement like you would see just like, in a magazine or in a newspaper. So I'd like us to investigate doing that a little bit too, but we have to really talk internally about what our message would be on those ads.
I see ads for schools every once in a while on TV, although that's probably pretty expensive to do.
That would be very expensive to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. I had something, but we can come back to it. Anybody else have any comments about?
And just please always make me aware of things. If I'm aware, I'll be there.
I remember what it was. Could either one of you talk about what rooms is for our new people that they might not understand what
I
that
will
is?
absolutely let you.
And I didn't necessarily include this in this presentation because I looked at this as being more external.
Sure.
Rooms is very internal. So as part of my hiring about 16 months ago, part of this new position was to implement a product called Aptigee Rooms. So Aptigee provides our website and our ThrillShare messaging. But Rooms is a new communication tool. It's app-based, and it's really to connect students to their teachers and to their coaches and advisors. So you can have the Watertown USD app on your phone. That's for parents and students. And basically, it's our website and an app, but then there's a component called Rooms within it. And it's really kind of a cool instant messaging between, like, I'm a district parent, so I can use Rooms to communicate with any, admin or admin assistants at the high school or any of my daughter's teachers directly. So teachers through Rooms can place announcements. So like if you're on social media, that's like your Facebook wall or the announcements. And then they can also like create messaging groups and direct message staff and parents. What's really great about it is that it's 100% secure. It's all archivable, and it's going to go a long way to eliminate any staff, communicating with families with their personal cell phone number or through other channels. So this, we are going to continue to cement as our primary communications tool with our district families. So it's Skyward, our email messaging, our ThrillShare messaging, Google Classroom. Those are all approved communication channels for the district because they're managed by the district. So this is, we soft rolled it out third trimester and fourth quarter. And then Rooms just went through an update, which has been very challenging for me because it looks a little different to staff than it did in the fall that I trained them on, but we'll all be fine. But going into this school year, Seesaw and Mind and other apps, we were paying for a lot of different apps and it just wasn't consistent. So this is the new consistent app that will be used going forward. And parents can also access it on a desktop computer as well. They don't have to have the app on their phone.
Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, we'll move on to the RMS course proposal, Honors ELA 6.
All right, I am going to just briefly introduce this. I know that Jason may need to step out because he has to be back for an interview.
I bought myself 5 extra minutes, so
Okay.
we should be good.
Okay, good. This is a course proposal that is much later than we typically provide course proposals, but I think this is something that both our community and Jason was interested in implementing at our middle school level, so I will turn it over to him. I do have one programming note. We are going to skip ahead to the last topic because Renee Aldana has joined the meeting, but I wanted to get Jason in, and then we'll go to the last topic, and then we'll scoot back and get the special ed topic at the very end. So Jason, go for it.
Yeah, really quick history lesson here. About 4 years ago, the middle school implemented a ELA curriculum 6A called Wit and Wisdom. Very rigorous curriculum that we've seen a great deal of success with over the last 4 years. And that usual like implementation gap that you may see sometimes when you're doing something different over a 3-year period. We saw a like, I won't say spike, but like our scores relatively quickly started to work their way up the way we would want to see. The students' like gut reaction, the teacher's gut reaction to it is what the student was able to produce as a result of the change in curriculum was night and day compared to what a student would be able to do at the end of it prior to that, when teachers were creating their own curriculum at that point. One of the problems, I guess, with Wit and Wisdom, it's designed for like a 180-day calendar, 90 minutes per day, if you're doing it fully, like full fidelity. And we revamped the schedule at Riverside to make it 81 minutes a day. That being said, we found ourselves needing to, from time to time, pare down what's like all of the bells and whistles that might be in the Wit and Wisdom to make it fit into a 175-day calendar in 81 minutes. And on Wednesday is 67 minutes, right? So the idea came that, and students and parents were interested in the idea of having a leveled option for ELA, that you could really teach that to full fidelity and not have to really pare back what you're trying to do. And so if the students were interested in it, challenged by choice, and could handle the rigor, could handle the pacing of it, that's something that we could offer a section of or more. And if 100 kids wanted to take it at 8th grade, we'd offer sections that would warrant 100 kids taking it. So last year, 24-25, we did this in 7th and 8th grade. We had 34 kids in a classroom in 7th grade, 34 kids in a classroom of 8th grade, and had success with that, being able to keep a brisker pace moving forward. The idea was we didn't want to propose it in 6th grade last year because 6th grade is a transitional year. We just didn't want students, the idea of maybe drinking out of a fire hose coming from 5th to 6th, and now you're also running with a super brisk pace, rigorous curriculum. So we just wanted to give this idea here to see how we felt about it, see how it worked. So here we are a year later, and we're here at Ed Services in August talking about maybe rolling it down to ELA Honor 6. The information on there was borrowed really heavily from the proposal for 7th and 8th grade a year earlier, year and a half earlier. We do have a teacher identified to teach it. We have reached out to students and families over the summer. We generally wouldn't do it this way moving forward. Students in 5th grade could select this in February, March to take in the fall. Given that we were going to propose this later in the summer, we reached out to students that were recommended by the principals at the elementary. Stacey Bargans, the advanced learner coordinator, had some suggestions and ideas. We have, I believe, a group of 21 or 22 students that have been identified. I believe every single parent that was reached out to wanted to do it. How was that for 4 minutes? Sorry. Okay.
Did it 4 minutes. So we're proposing that we would bring this to resolution at the board in August, and then Jason would move forward while the middle school would move forward with offering this class in the fall. And again, it's not typically our timeline that we go on, but I know Jason felt strongly about seeing it for a full year, taking a look at the data, was it successful or not? And so that's why it's more last minute. So essentially what we would be looking for from Ed Services is to say, okay, to bring forward for full resolution for the August board meeting.
Craig.
I have to apologize. I do have a number of different reservations about this. I really do. One of them being, you mentioned that this last year, 6th grade was a transition year. I'll like to remind everybody that sixth grade next year is gonna be a transitional year as well. We picked up HMH. And now we're trying to figure out a way to, make that align with the new sixth grade ELA program. So that's a transition year in and of itself. Then on top of it, we've had maybe a year already of, honors offered at seventh grade for wit and wisdom and eighth grade. Yet, I'd like to think that we make data-driven decisions. I've not seen data that indicates that has actually been a net positive to the overall literacy program at RMS. The reason being, when the particular rep came into RMS and one of the reps and observed that we had an honors course, she asked, well, are you really creating an honors course, or are you just creating more remedial courses? So is it an excuse to take a step back in the regular course? That's a reservation I have. You know, the whole course should be rigorous. It was designed to be rigorous. It wasn't designed to be level. If it was, they would have offered that through wit and wisdom. They didn't. So that's another reservation I have. I think it's there's just a lot going on there in sixth grade in general. I'm not sure. And honors, are we giving laudate credits or points for? So then, why wouldn't we call every course an honors course? You know. And then we have an at-risk section. I guess that's where I would be. I'm really, the pacing, that's another thing. The pacing between the honors and the regular course, as I understand, is exactly the same. The only difference is that the pacing between the 7th and 8th grade with the honors is that the 7th and 8th grade honors courses offer more rigorous assignments and homework. It's not exactly a deviation from the regular pacing guide. You know, just a little bit more in depth.
Can I respond to that?
Sure,
part?
absolutely.
Okay. And part of that is intentional because if Chris Malloy 100% should be taking honors ELA 7 because she is academic high flyer, right? Like she's gonna run through that at the brisk pace that's designed for. If I kind of like to read and I kind of like hanging out with Chris Malloy, so I'm gonna try to take a class with her. After first semester, or first quarter, if it's clearly too much for me, and I didn't have a benchmark to get into it, right? I'm just interested, I want to do it, I want to push myself. And after 9 weeks, it's like, this is not right for me. There should be a off-ramp for where I was taking that curriculum so that I could go to the regular regular ELA 7 and be able to kind of hit the ground running, transitioning back into like the mainstream ELA course. So you're right, 100%. What those 9 weeks look like, that ELA 7 and honors ELA 7 would have, the depth of what's being asked of the students, the conversations, maybe the assignments, maybe asking more of students in that ELA course than in the regular course. But part of it was like being able to parachute down from honors ELA to if it wasn't the right fit for you after a quarter. Because there were some conversations around, do you make it so that only students that have this like entry benchmark should get into it? And the initial like thought of the class was we want kids who may not be great test takers, but be awesome ELA students that want to challenge themselves by choice. So I mean, that one part was intentional. That was us strategically building up and trying to do that.
No, and I think that's a great strategy. My reservation is that I don't want to see the rest of the program backslide as a result of, because I think we're doing great, you know, so.
Jason, were you saying that perhaps some of the top avid kids could then move into this? Okay.
There is so it's a really good question. So one of the benchmarks in the AVID program is that students need to take rigorous coursework. And in reality, at the middle school, like what you deem rigorous coursework, I mean, it could be in any class, right? Like for me, taking Spanish is rigorous for me because I'm not a very good Spanish student. Changing a light bulb might be rigorous for me to do. But like if you're not a strong math student, 4 years ago, if you're not a strong, that's the only level thing we had. If you're not a strong math student and you're an AVID, you really couldn't like check that box on the CCI saying that you were taking a rigorous course. So this does allow for another section of the population to be able to say like, I have math, I can take a rigorous course, I have ELA.
And go ahead, Joanne.
No, go ahead, Dan, finish
Well,
up what you got.
From my experience, there's really two schools of thought with this, and we generally go back and forth. Is you want to get all the top students together because they challenge each other and learn, and Jason would learn from Chris, hopefully. And the other school of thought is that you want to spread your good kids in all the other classes to try to bring the others up. But from my experience of teaching that higher level course, you can go faster and deeper. And the kids who don't care about what's going on in the classroom, they're over here. And I subbed in a class where there was one of those upper level kids because he wanted to take more music courses in with the other kids that didn't care so much. And he was lost. You could see it in his face. I like the idea of having that upper level honors course. And even if the kids were borderline and got a B or a C, and they're usually A students, they still benefited from learning from their peers. So that's just my thought. Jelaine, you want to?
Well, I just want to make sure I understand, Wit and Wisdom is the ELA program across the board. And so the honors program for the sixth graders would be an opportunity for, as someone's mentioned, more aggressive assignments, more in-depth work, but the pacing remains the same, as you explained, so that if they need to bail, to make sure they make progress without being totally frustrated, that they can drop back into a standard class of ELA.
The idea is like in an honors ELA class, closer to 100% of the curriculum as intended, the assignments, the collaborative opportunities are being taught. In the traditional ELA class, I'm making a number up, right, but the number might be 75 or 80%. And some instructional decisions have to be made to be able to fit that robust content into a mold that is 81 minutes a day for 175, understanding that you can't get to everything that you may want to get to with a more wide range of abilities in your class.
Yeah, the document that was submitted says that it's 80% coverage typically, and that what gets left out is the informative research component most typically, and that would be added in, and if I'm understanding this correctly, if the honors class was added, so I think, yeah.
In the past, we've tried to remedy that by having our science and social studies teachers have a lesson that would cover that part of it, because they're not going to get to it in the same way in their ELA.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So what should I do? Take a vote?
Well, are we comfortable moving it forth for a resolution in August? And we could have continued discussion there. If there are other questions that come up in between, I know Jason would be happy to support answering them, or our co-principals, Leanne and Mike, would be happy to.
Yeah, I'd be happy to move it forward for resolution as a committee member.
Okay.
David?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
It's unanimous.
Okay.
Moving that forward.
We will have a resolution on the August board meeting. Okay. And then in our agenda, I'm going to skip forward to the last agenda item. Thank you, Jason. I'm sorry if I made you late. The parent opt-out and parent opt-in. Renee Aldana has joined us as well for the conversation. I know that this, hi Renee, I see you, I just put you on the big screen. I know this conversation is taking place in kind of a couple of different places. First, the conversation at the policy committee level, especially as it relates to our controversial issues in the classroom. We were asked to place this on the Ed Services agenda in light of the Supreme Court decision at the end of June, Muhammad v. Taylor, which outlines parents' right to ask for an opt-out for curriculum that relates or may be in conflict with their own personal religious views. I have Renee to answer questions if possible, but I just want to give a kind of a brief overview. I think the place that we start is with that controversial issues in the classroom policy. And in that policy, I know that there has been language added as well. If I believe correctly, this has not been brought forward for a first read. This is still at our policy level committee. But there was language added here where the kind of taken directly from that Supreme Court decision, where giving parents the option of opting out of some of the materials that they may find objectionable or in conflict with their own religious beliefs. Renee did put together for us a form that I'm displaying now. We would likely brand this a little better with Melissa's help, but this is the request for religious accommodation or opt-out. This form would be made available to families on our website, and to me, this is sort of a jumping off point for conversation with a family, the principal, and then any teachers that student might have. So if a family had a concern about something that might be taught in our curriculum, that they could fill this form out, submit it to the school, and have a conversation, starting a conversation with the principal and with the staff member, so that we ensure that we're giving parents that option of opting out of any of those activities that they would find to be objectionable. The district does have to offer an alternative activity or an accommodation as a part of that, and you can see that the parent has that as a request as well. In our controversial issues in the classroom policy, it does outline, as sort of a second step, outline that teachers need to make families aware ahead of time if there are going to be any topics that are taught in the classroom that are controversial, and at that point, offer an opt-out for families as well, or notify them, and then the families can request an opt-out at that time as well. So it's kind of twofold. First, just the general request for an opt-out, and then second, teachers notifying families if there's a controversial issue that is being taught in the classroom. Renee, do you have anything that you would like to add to that before we open that discussion up for the Ed Services Committee?
Not at this point. I think that's a thorough description. Was that audio?
I'm getting a little bit of an echo. I'm gonna just.
Because the sound is on all three.
Got it. That's an easy fix. Thank you. Good catch. I muted that. I'm gonna go grab another remote and then I'll mute the other one.
Is that better?
Tiny bit, but.
Renee, the sound is on all three TVs, and so you're echoing right now. Can you give us just?
All right, give it a shot now.
Is that better?
Way better, thank you. Is it better?
Yeah.
It's
Still
still
on.
Okay. One more remote, Renee. It's a good thing we have 3 TVs in here. All right, now try.
Better?
No, I'm still, am I getting enough that one?
Hold on, say something again, Renee.
One more time?
Okay,
Is
it's
it
getting
coming
better.
through the owl as well?
It's getting better.
It should just come to the owl. I mean, normally I catch that.
Mm.
Is it this?
Now try, hold on.
Testing, testing.
It's both.
Can you turn that TV off?
Or hear what I can, no. I can turn the owl all the way down and we'll just hear it through the, okay, now try, Renee.
Is this better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Excellent. All I said was that that's a thorough description. The plan presented has lots of options with next steps. So
All right. Any questions or thoughts about that? And again, I know this will be a topic of conversation at the policy meeting tomorrow night as well.
Yeah, Renee, could you remind us, because I think we had this discussion recently, what effective notice would be, that's on page 2, in that bottom green highlighted paragraph. It says, teachers shall provide effective notice to parents in advance of controversial issues being instructed in the classroom.
So the board has a certain amount of, in terms of how you're going to give notice, what notice looks like. Recent decision to go into regarding those specifics, and was very clear. Many of these issues are local control, and so this is one of them. And I think one of the things I think about is that the Supreme Court is significant differences between districts in terms of the and so there's an ability for the what our community and how communication looks, and then go from there.
Okay.
So essentially a local control decision. Renee, it's just a little spotty you coming
Yeah.
through the TV.
I know,
so
I
I'm
can
gonna
hear
try
that.
to translate.
That's why I'm waiting for the echo to stop.
I appreciate it. So a local control decision, and I don't think that there's anything specifically outlined in the policies that is like a specific number of days. Our intent would be to share information regarding this policy with our staff at back to school. I realize it's not been through a first read at the board level yet, but given that it's August, I think it's important for our staff to know that where we're at with this policy so that they have an understanding. No, it won't be an official policy once the school year starts. However, the Supreme Court case still, whether or not this policy is in place, the Supreme Court case still applies. So it's important for our staff to be aware of that.
Sure. I think developing a method there will be good. This is a great start. Determining how we're going to signal out ahead of time to families about controversial issues, I think will be important, of course, but I suppose that will come with time. Maybe developing like a minimum time, like 10 days, forms of communication by which you can make that noticed. Obviously, I think the ideal would be for those things to be contained, like we were talking about the course guides, the curriculum and course guides on the website. Having those things on the curriculum and course guide would probably be for the best. And obviously, we're going to talk more about some of this at policy tomorrow night. I did include some examples I found from other districts of ways that they're handling their versions of 2240, the controversial issues policy. And so I have some supportive documents and things like that that are ideas there, but that might be more geared towards policy. So I don't have any questions currently. I think this is a great change, and I think that we're moving in the right direction with this. I think it's something that parents have been asking for a long time, for at least the past 4 or 5 years, and it looks good to me.
Craig?
To Sam's point, I think that I did see it among the list of other suggestions that, for policy at least, that there was an administrative guideline there that was indicated. I think that I would be eager to see and I anticipate that effective notice might be addressed in an administrative guideline that would accompany this. It would also help spell things out. But so far, I think this is a step in the right direction.
One thing on the religious accommodation permission, no, it's a request. I think adding legal guardian or foster parent would be crucial, because it's gonna be whoever that person is in that home that is with that child right then and there. Otherwise, there might be some things that might slip through the cracks. Or gaining 2 signatures, depending if that child's back with a bio parent or not as well. Just so that all bases are covered.
I know when we're working with foster, is there your about to say
Sure, I
something?
was gonna say something. So a legal guardian or parent covers the foster situation because they are then the custodial of that child and they have the right to sign on any document. And that is written in the law.
So update it to reflect guardian.
Guardian as well,
parent or
guardian and
guardian.
parent,
Yep.
yeah.
So who gets to determine what's controversial? Parents? I mean, the teacher needs to know that this might be controversial in order to inform the parents.
Well, if you look at policy 2240, it does provide you with a definition of controversial issue. A topic on which opposing points of view have been promulgated by responsible opinion or are likely to arouse both support and opposition in the community. These issues may range across a wide spectrum of political, social, economic, and religious topics. So if we talk about methods of making pizza in a cooking class, you might be an individual who feels very strongly about, whether or not Chicago-style deep dish is considered pizza or something. I don't know. But that's
You mean
not.
there's something beyond frozen pizza?
That's not necessarily considered a controversial issue though, because it has to be a topic on which opposing points of view have been promulgated by a responsible opinion and/or are likely to arouse both support and opposition in the community, right? And although there may be people who hold differing opinions on something, that doesn't necessarily rise to the level of controversial issue. I think that the level of discourse that surrounds it is what defines a controversial issue,
Yeah, it may change.
depending on the time and era.
Okay. And we're asking the parents on that form to select an alternative.
Or suggest. I think that that's in my mind, with the form, it is, to me, this form starts a conversation, right?
Okay.
To me, this form, you turn it in, you're having a conversation with the principal, potentially the teacher and or teachers that it involves, so that we better understand what it is that the family has a concern about and we can better address what that is. So to me, this isn't about like, just turn this form in and end of story. To me, it starts a conversation. And it's on the responsibility of the parent for us to start to let us know if there's a concern or an area of concern. To your point, there may be something that a family wants to opt out on that may not register as an issue for one of our teachers, but if we start this conversation with the principal, with the teacher, so that there's a better understanding, I think that is the place where that starts, in my opinion.
Okay.
Okay?
So allow me to play devil's advocate a little bit on this form. If you have one parent that wants a child to opt out, but then you have another parent that wants a child to participate, what do we do?
It's a good question because we end up in situations like that often.
Yeah.
Again, I believe that it starts to become a conversation. Renee, I would turn to you and say, how would you handle that if we have a situation where one parent wants in and one parent wants out?
Well, we handle, and I can still hear feedback. I don't know if
It's better here, so if you can keep going, I can't figure out how to mute that though.
Try muting us while you speak.
Oh.
That might.
Oh, gosh. Turn your volume down on your computer,
Yeah.
but don't mute your microphone.
Oh, yes. Technology, not. Let's see. Okay. Oh, that's better. Thanks. Okay. So it's different in different contexts. So there are other times in other contexts where if one parent says yes, we go. This is very likely to be different because of a lot of different sources that we look to regarding parent rights in this particular context. So I think it's important to note that it's going to be different here than, for example, in special education. And so we might decide that if there's two parents, one says yes and one says no, that you're going to honor the objection. My guess is that's the direction that we're going to go. It would be consistent with the guidance that we received from the Supreme Court as of late. And then what you do with the form itself, this is again a starting point and jumping off point. There's nothing about it that's set in stone, and it should be revised as appropriate for the community. So for example, the definition, the legal definition includes all of those things you're talking about, but you want to be more specific, and that's appropriate. So other things you might determine you want to be more specific about, questions you want to ask, prompts that you want to include. There really is an opportunity to supplement the form and make it work for you.
Thank you, Renee.
Okay, anybody else?
Before we move topics, if there's no questions about this specifically, I also included the sample human growth and development consent form that Renee did prepare for us. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with that as well. I believe that we completed the second read of human growth and development policy, and within that it talks about, rather than opting out, it is a consent form that we would be asking families to fill out. So here is the sample of that form. My intent would be to send this form with before it is taught in the classroom and ask for parents to send consent back. We may try to figure out how we might be able to do this electronically, or a policy or a system that will be easier. Because this will be a different procedure than we've used in the past. And so we just want to ensure that we have a procedure that's as efficient as possible, and where we're not putting a lot of burden on the classroom teacher necessarily to be sorting and getting all of these back. I can tell you it is sometimes challenging to get permission forms back. And so we will need to come up with a procedure that will work. But I just wanted to bring your attention to that as well. Because I do know that policy did go through its second read and would be implemented as of July.
Awesome.
Questions or concerns about that?
I think it looks great. And I think that your idea about making it electronic would be really useful. You could even have it set up so that you click on the curriculum, like open the curriculum, close it, then you can have the sign access or something, so that, you know, they've actually looked at the curriculum, and it kind of covers your bases.
You could do that during the registration process, because it would be a point where they would have to complete it in order to complete registration, and then you could even put that curriculum piece in there, no link to it.
That'd be great.
That'll be in next year.
That's
So
not
we've already
this
done
Hey,
it.
it's a great start, moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and I do appreciate the idea of electronic, because I know myself that I'm much more likely to like click on a link if it comes to my email than use a QR code if it comes as a paper pencil.
Yeah.
So. All right, any questions about either of those two things? I should let you ask that question. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Are there any questions about either?
I only have one other question, and it's only slightly related. Renee, are you going to be joining us tomorrow night for further discussion of 2240?
I had not yet received the invitation, but you should let me know if that would be helpful.
Well, I'd be happy to invite you as long as you're available. 5:30 is when the meeting starts.
All right, I will talk to Jared about that and get you the link, Renee.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you, and sorry for the sound piece. Usually I get those muted before we start, but it didn't happen today. Sorry about that. All right. And then, well, I'll let you do this part, Jan. Sorry.
And then, you can't see her moving, but, okay, we're going to special ed policy and procedures.
So everything that we do in special education is based in the law, and this is the packet of law and definitions. Every year we have to do an annual update, which technically means we are putting a new date on the special education procedures. This is the updated version. There have not been any changes to the law for quite some time, which has been good. So this is completely good, sound, based in law. We put the new date on it and it moves forward. All of the definitions in the 88 pages are what we currently use in special education. Everything from the procedures of how we have an IEP team pulled together to different placements, to options, to how we serve our kids is all based in here. Our parents also receive their safeguards and their notices annually during all of their IEP meetings and ahead of time.
So what we would be asking is to put a resolution on the August board meeting for the school district to, or the school board to accept these policies and procedures.
So moved.
All right. And do we have any, is there anyone who has any questions or anything about this? As Sarah pointed out, it's rather
It's very
procedural.
specific, yes.
If you ever have a question about special ed, man, all the answers are in here. It's good reading.
You know what? It is. A nice Sunday morning, a cup of coffee, and your special education procedures.
Definitely with the coffee.
Were you falling asleep a little bit, Lori, when you were
I had
reading
my
it?
coffee.
I don't know, I have to give that a quick thumbs up.
I always joked that you knew you were in the right job when you enjoyed reading this, and it is actually.
It is, it's so fun.
You're a very good liar.
No,
Renee knows that I love this. I love the law. I love
We
all.
love it, we really do.
I do. I'm such a, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it looks fine to me too. I
Yeah.
don't think,
Okay,
you have any issues with that? You wanna hold it back? No, okay.
yeah, we're ready to go ahead with that then.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent, thank you.
Okay, so we are down to action items,
Excellent.
okay?
I have a few. Move the sixth grade advanced ELA to a resolution for August. Also move the special ed policies and procedures for resolution in August. Lori, I made a note that I'm happy to meet with you and go over the curriculum guide piece if you're of interest.
No,
in
I
that.
just wanted to kind of like get a thumbnail on the timeline, so it's all
perfect.
good. Yeah.
Excellent. And I did not have any other specific action items. Did I miss anything?
What was the first one you stated?
The advanced ELA,
Yeah,
course proposal on August, resolution.
okay, I think that's it. Anybody?
No, that's everything for me.
So let's talk about the future agenda planning. I know that we've talked a little bit about coming up with a plan to deal with bullying. And I know, Linda, you indicated some experience there, so sometime we'd like to talk a little bit more about it. Again, it's because policy says one thing, but we need an actual plan to accomplish that, so.
And that's the last item on our future agenda items, behavior plan update, September 2025.
It would be an opportunity to ask administration if it would be appropriate to pick AP Dietrich's mind about other possibilities and other communities or other experiences that he's had in that particular area. At the HOPE program, I think you mentioned.
Hope Squad is for suicide prevention.
Okay.
So we have all of the data regarding last year. I looked over at Chris is already gone. We have the data regarding last year and we have crafted our plans for what it looks like moving forward. And so all of that is ready to go for September as well.
Awesome. I look forward to that discussion.
So we're going to have the behavior update in September, and Jenny, you were gonna invite the principals that were.
I'm inviting
Yeah.
the deans and the associate principals,
Okay.
Mike Cunningham, who is now
Sure.
interim, co-principal. We gotta get these labels correct. So they can talk a little bit more about what they have been doing and what their plans are moving forward.
Good. Anybody else comments?
Just Sarah, do you think we'll have enough information to give an update on the cell phone project, next month?
So that's gonna go to central office for discussion, as we talked a little bit about yesterday, to move forward. And then any data that would come from any sort of pilot coming out of that would be available probably after first trimester. And so it's gonna take a little bit of time.
That's okay, thank you.
Okay,
My question is there a policy in place already about bullying?
Yes.
Okay, I figured there would be.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think we voted on it at the last board meeting for the second read.
Suspended or expelled. The school will determine if their behavior
So-
violates.
in fact, that policy is fairly new. It's been revised.
Yeah. We added a few things in before the last vote, but that last vote was second read. So if you go, I mean, I can show it to you right after the,
Okay.
maybe I can't show it to you. I'll email a link to it to you.
Could you include me in that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think what's important is what bullying is and what it is not. What is mean behavior versus what is bullying? Because I think people like to use the term bullying a lot,
Oh, yeah.
but it needs to be targeted, specific, over time, and in a power situation. So it's very specific.
You were talking about, this is the bullying procedures and so forth that you're gonna do, and I thought, certainly you already had something.
Sure, we did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
State law requires it.
yeah.
So kind of the contrast is, so we have a policy, and that policy is one side that's like, here's in writing what our standards are, and then Ed Services is for implementation of standards and for implementation of curriculum and adoption of curriculum and stuff like that.
Good, thank you.
Okay. I think we can adjourn at 9:20.
All
So,
right,
thank you, everybody.
very good.
Thank you so much.
10 minutes to spare.
Yeah, how about that? I can.
All right.
Yeah. I will.
Sure.
It is missing 4 screws now.
What?
Yeah.
My laptop.
Are they